You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jourdan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. Success. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Boom!
That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that.
Woohoo!
Boom, let's do that.
What kind of timing was that? You just kind of gradually lifted your arms like,
I'm spinning some plates here, Dan. I'm flicking around, as you would say, putzing around backstage, trying to make sure you look and sound good for the car buying audience.
Right. The car buying public, not the car buying audience. You got
they're the audience today.
Yeah, it's one word. That's it. Yeah, this is great. So I see you got your little StreamYard thing back there. The StreamYard
always
pillow.
Be branding, baby. Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah. Had a gig that I did with them, a little remote production gig, and so shout out to StreamYard, who powers Dan Jourdan Live, as well as the Pitchman over on Amazon. So if
Pitchman.live.
on Pitchman.live, correct.
Yeah, right.
So if you're over on Amazon, unmute, and it's this big, huge button that is in that way. Right between us, unmute, because you're going to want to hear everything, especially if you are in the world of sales. You're going to want to hear as well as see our guest today. And if you're over on the other tubes, really the party, Dan, and we're talking about some stuff that our guest is all about. And so if you want to pick up a book that he actually worked on as well with his daughter, which is available on Amazon, you got to head over to the pitchman.live on Amazon. We've got people logging in already over there, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, and you can chat and get in the show. Listen, I call it the EAT formula. You got to eat, you got to engage. That's the E. You got to activate. So get active, and then that's right. And then try something new. A lot of people are just scared to try something new. And when Chris Stone was talking about especially in sales, basically, if you're a human, this is going to be helpful for you. You're going to dig it and you're going to like it. Now, so what that means is that all you lawyers, you can shut it off right now. All you non-human people that we're dealing with. All right. But
what if a lawyer wants to be a human, Dan? I think they could get something out of today.
But you really gotta want it. You really gotta want it. All right. Well, listen, I really want to get the guest up here. Let me tell you a little bit about him, and I'll say this to you as to not embarrass him if I were to say it. But in the world of sales, this guy, John Barrows, is for me, he's like one of those people that just kind of speaks to me. He's the type of person that you initially kind of dislike because he's so good, and he's like he's too young to be as wise as he is, and he's too old to be as cool as he is. And so I can't stand it. He kind of meets everything. But the stuff coming out of his mouth and the team that he's developed and what he's done for companies across the world is kind of tremendous. And so I'm grateful to have him on. And Chris Stone, if you could do the real stuff after all my oogling.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, welcome to Dan Jourdan, the one, the only CEO of John Barrows Sales Training, Mr. John Barrows. Welcome.
There we
go. Let's go.
What's up, Chris? How y'all doing?
Yeah, you've done that a few times at maybe some Patriots games.
A few. I've been known to be a little bit of a boisterous Patriots and New England fan all the way around. So yeah, we had 20 years. Now we're in the shit, but so I probably won't be doing too much of this in the but we'll see what happens.
Well, you only got one way to go now, so it's in good shape. I mean, the good thing about sports in general and how it relates to sales with everything is every day you're starting from zero. You could have the worst season last year and people will forget about it almost completely with one good game.
Yes, they will.
You're one day away from doing that. Listen, all right. So Jay Barrows, I got a big question for you.
Yeah.
First of all, how things going? Things good?
Yeah, I can't complain, man. I got my first vaccine shot today, so I'm on my way on that.
Oh, did you?
So I'm happy there. Weather's getting good here in Boston. Can't complain about that. Business is good. So all in all, man, and also just lastly, the COVID thing for me has just been fantastic because obviously all the horrible stuff, but I was 6,000 miles away from the 1,000,000-mile mark on United alone when everything shut down, and so I'm probably 2.5 million miles in less than 10 years. And if I never get on a plane again for business, I'll be happy. So for me, this whole thing's been fantastic.
Do you see? And that's unbelievable. How I just thinking of that, because there are people on the other side that are craving, speakers and trainers who are craving to get out there and do that stuff.
Nope. No, I'm done. I'm not done. But I actually think this format of learning is better in a lot of ways. Like when we cut it up, as opposed to one data dump of a full day and see you later versus what we're doing now. I actually think it's a better experience. And it was just because people weren't used to it. And now that people are used to it, look, don't get me wrong, on-site will come back and will be selective, but it'll be selective. It won't be wasted. I think we were doing so much travel for so few real reasons, and it was just because that's the way people felt like business had to be done. We've all proved it overnight that business doesn't have to be done that way, and it can be done this way. And I think this is just a much more efficient way of doing things.
So what is lost though with doing this? Because everybody's trying to find this, this lane, but pretty soon everybody's going to be in the same lane, and then you're in the same doldrums. How do you keep it fresh?
Well, I think what's lost is, and you kind of brought up the age, right, of too young versus I love being a Gen Xer, right, because we're right in the middle, we're the bridge between the crazies. But I think what's lost is, if I was younger, if I was coming out of school, or if I was in school right now, the true social interaction, right, I think is a really it's unfortunate that kids are missing out on that right now. Just being at events and networking with people and meeting people that you would never meet in a Zoom session, even if it's a breakout or a group or whatever it is, just the stuff that happens outside of the core things is always a huge benefit. But for me, 45-year-old man, I've done that. I've networked. I know I got my, what I mean? So I got my reputation. I'm still building it as I can. So I'm not losing out on a lot, but I think the 20 somethings are losing out on, unfortunately, a decent amount is just how to interact with people and all the cool stuff that happens with those interactions.
Well, that's exactly right. So, but that's a challenge because new people are, newsflash, new kids are being born almost every day. There's a new crop every day. I remember I was talking with a car salesman, and he was in car sales all the time. I'm like, man, you've been working this area for so long. What's going on? How can you still make a living? And he told me, he says, every day, another kid, 10,000 kids are turning 16.
Yep.
And every day. So it just keeps on coming. But so, you say you're 45. That's great for you. You've already done that. What can these kids do?
Yeah, I think it's also a generational thing as well, right? Because this generation is growing up with this, so it's going to be their benefit as far as adapting to this. And I think the challenge is going to be for the older generation who's used to that, kind of figuring out how to adapt to this. So I actually think that there's a stronger benefit on the younger generation side because this is something that is natural to them. Sitting in front of a screen, engaging with people, I'm watching my daughter right now. She's 10 years old and she sits down and she plays games on her iPad with her friends, or she even I still don't understand watching somebody else play a video game. It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's how they interact. And so I think it's once you start crossing those generations is where the challenge comes, right? Where you have this senior group, a lot of senior AEs who are sitting there who built their entire world and their entire reputation around meeting with people, going out to lunch and going out to dinners and those type of things. And now they're sitting behind a screen and they have no idea how to engage in this world. I think that's actually the bigger challenge than the younger kids figuring out and having better relationships and developing those relationships because they already know how to develop them with their crew, right? I think it's once you cross those lines, 22-year-old kids trying to engage with 45, 50-year-olds. And what's that gap? That's the biggest challenge that I see.
Yeah, well, but you know, it's like I got a phone. Everybody's got a phone. All right, everybody's got an iPhone like this. You know, you don't know that the phone I had before this, you know, had an antenna. I mean, it was archaic. Who knows? You know, you don't know that, but that's how. And this is what I try to impart on people in our thing, that it takes about a minute to learn that this is the camera. You know, don't look at the picture here because this is the camera. Look at that. That's making. But it takes a minute to learn that. What I find is people, your generation and mine, I like to think, well, how old am I? I'm 55.
There you go.
But incredibly good looking.
I like it.
So I got that. Yeah. So we got that. But yeah, I try to tell people, guys, it's not that hard to learn. You know, make a video. It's not that hard. How do you encourage them without? Because my challenge is I get this a lot. Oh, that's you. You're an extrovert. You know, you could do that. But I'm trying to say, man, anybody can do it. How do you get that point across?
I mean, I'm not I mean, most people don't believe this, but I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert who knows I have to be an extrovert to do what I want to do. But I would much rather be the guy in the corner sitting down drinking a beer with 2 or 3 people than the guy in the middle of the dance floor, you know, with every, you know, center of attention. It's just not my style. It never has been, never will be. But I know I got to do. So I think a lot of it has to do with taking a step back and figuring out what your goals are. What do you want to accomplish in your life from a big picture standpoint? I think 5 years is a good threshold to look out these days. I think anything past 5 years you got, but I mean, if you put and I don't mean like how much money you want to make. I mean, what's the lifestyle you want to live, right? And therefore back into, okay, therefore what's the job and the money that you have to make to be able to live that lifestyle, and backing all the way down to, okay, then what do I need to do in order to be able to achieve that? Because if you don't have those goals, then somebody else is dictating the path and you'll always come up with an excuse not to do it. But if my goal is to have a house, live this type of lifestyle, have a family and those type of things, well, then I'm going to know that I have to do certain things that I'm not comfortable with in order to achieve that, right? It's just like working out. Like if I want to, you know, people say I want to get in shape. Well, if you're going to get in shape, well, then when you wake up in the morning, you'll hit the snooze button. You'll maybe not today, that type of thing. But if I say, I want to be 185 pounds, cut up bench in 225 by May 5th, 2007, right? Like, well, then every day I'm driving towards that goal. And I'm like, okay, I hate the gym, but I'm going to go to the gym because that's what I'm driving towards. And it's kind of the why factor that I don't think enough people really take a step back and figure out, like, what is my why? Why am I doing what I'm doing here? And just stop going through the motions, because most people who are going through the motions will come up with excuses why they can't get uncomfortable, why that's just you or why that's just somebody else. But there's a million examples of people that are like that were like them, that got uncomfortable because they wanted to change their situation. That's just actually
John, so you've got a very impressive resume of companies that you've worked with. And I know there's a lot of people that are just now joining and maybe they don't know who John Barrows is. You know, maybe they've been under a rock or, you know, been in a pandemic for 1.5 years and they don't know yet about Jay Barrows and what you do and the history of people with, you know, you've worked with Dropbox, you've worked with Google, Salesforce, just a ton of companies to help train them. And when you've worked with them and you've learned about these specifics, you're talking about specific things. You're not just saying, I want to get into shape. You're talking about specific goals and hitting those goals. Is that part of the training that you work with those teams?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is, you know, I'm not really into kind of the big theory about selling or the, you know, big, long process to follow. One of the things that attracted me when I took this training the first time, like I graduated marketing, you know, because I didn't want to be when I grew up. I drank my way through 4 years of college, then got into sales with DeWalt, selling power tools, which was pretty badass, but that was more marketing. Then I sold copiers, and that's where Xerox, that's where I got my real sales education. And then I got into startups, doing outsourced IT services. Me and a buddy of mine started a company, joined that. And we grew that company. I took the training. The training was called Basho, and I took it. And the reason I loved it
was called Asher?
Basho, B-A-S-H-O, right?
Okay.
And it was the reason I loved it because it was super tactical. It was very execution oriented, right? I mean, I think the problem with most sales training is, most sales trainers get into sales training because they can't sell. So they can talk a good game, but they're really good at presenting, or they suck at sales. But it's so much easier to tell people how to do this than it is to do it. That's why 80% of sales training is fluff, right? You go to a whole day sales training, and if you pick out one cool nugget, you're like, oh, that was worth it. Or if you read a whole book on sales and you pick out one thing to put in a subject line and you think that was worth my time. No, it's not. I'm all about, like, I don't give a shit about all the fluff. Give me the stuff that's tactical. Give me the stuff that I can do and I can see an immediate result on, and a structure that I can follow to play around with. And so, yeah, a lot of the training that I do for the sales lofts and that type of stuff is tactical things that are things that we can drive towards and see success with, so that we can build on that success and then build a structure around it so we can repeat it.
That's an entire business model right there. You go in and get quick wins for someone, and then they practice these skills. It's not just why you're saying it's what to say. And sales loft is your big one. Let me lead into this because
I do sales loft too, but
you do sales loft too. Yeah. But you're big on, are you friends with Kyle Porter?
Yeah, he's a good friend. He's one of my good friends. Yeah.
You got to hook me up with Kyle Porter. Introduce me to Kyle. He's he's another really cool dude. I saw him at the high tech prayer breakfast several years ago when he was speaking. Did you go to that thing?
I did not know.
Yeah, I think, man, this guy is a cool dude. Just I didn't know anything about him, but
he's built one of the best cultures I've ever seen. I've said I'll never work for anybody ever again because I'm a pain in the ass and nobody would want me. But the culture that he's built over there is genuine. It's real, and it matters. So if there was a company that I would think about working for, it'd be Sales Loft, and it's because of what Kyle has built there and the values that he brings to the table for that. Look, their product is awesome. We could talk about all their business model and everything else, but I start with ethos. I start with values. And if you have those core values and ethos, then, I think everything else is going to work out.
That's great. So that leads right into the whole program. So in my view, there's two parts of sales. Prospecting isn't selling. Prospecting is prospecting, and selling is selling. It's a different kind of technology, getting interest in things. But many people, consultants, even people like Doug Lehman, who works for a bunch of other people in layman's terms. He's here. We always say we work with the middleman, and I work with companies between 1 and 15 million, where the owner is deeply involved, and so I can get in there and really make significant differences, which is true. And I love that. That's my market. But I'm thinking deep inside, if I'm to be honest, it's because I don't get the opportunities for the big companies. I don't get the opportunities for those big dogs. My kind of personality doesn't mix with that corporate lifestyle. Even though I may have the content. I think there's other people in that situation like me that aren't going for the big dogs because of that. How have you managed, if you had to give some advice to individual contributors who want to move to that level, how do they work in? Who do they work with?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be direct, I don't really love working with corporate either. I don't fit. I mean, I got fired. So when my little startup company Thrive, we ended up being the fastest growing company in Massachusetts, and then we got bought by Staples. And I thought that was cool, right? Because my little $10 million company was about to get integrated into a $20 billion organization. I was going to be the guy to do it. Come to find out, I am about as far away from a corporate guy as you can imagine. I have zero filter. I hate playing politics. I don't care if you're the CEO of the company. You could be Mark Benioff, and if I think you suck at your job, I'm going to tell you suck at your job, and that doesn't exactly play well in corporate America. So they fired me. Well, they offered me another position, which they fired me. And so I actually don't love working with major, huge corporations because of the bureaucracy, because of the bullshit. I like more the mid-market, right? Where the companies that are on their way up. And that's how I got Salesforce. Like getting to your question, whether it's being an entrepreneur or trying to get to that next level of your career or whatever it is, right? It's about kind of going all in on finding that one marquee account that fits the profile, that is the one that you can over service, right? Anybody who goes off on their own, I say, go give away your services for free, but give it away to that one perfect ICP, right? And over service the shit out of them. Do stuff you would never do for anybody else in return for a case study, in return.
Wait, I just got to hold you. ICP, for those who don't know.
Sorry. Ideal customer profile. So my ideal customer, like, you got to, and that's the most important part that I think everybody misses. They think, 1 to 15 million and those type of things, but really, why? Like, where do you fit, and what are the details of that? And get very, very minute with those details, not just revenue, not just industry, but what's the makeup of the departments? What's technologies do they use? Where are they on their growth cycle as an organization? And when I went off on my own with JB Sales, when Basho went belly up, a new CEO came in and tanked the company, and we effectively took it over. They had all these logos. And there were some pretty impressive ones like SAP and Monster and all these ones in Salesforce. And this was 10 years ago. So Salesforce wasn't Salesforce. They were Salesforce, but they weren't Salesforce, right? And so actually it was 13 years ago. And so I knew that they fit my style. They were high growth, aggressive growing company. They were really cool. They had really good values, right? I mean, 1-1-1, Mark Benioff has this 1-1-1 philosophy of giving away 1% profit, 1% of product, and 1% of time. So he gave back to the community, those type of things. So they aligned with my values, and they were very specific to my ideal customer profile. And I knew if I would just get them, then the rest of my life working in the SaaS space was going to be a lot easier, right? Because a lot of those companies, all these small companies, wanted to be like Salesforce. So going all in on that and really being hyper focused on figuring out the value that I could bring to them. And then, once you align values, I always think, like, I go back to it. I think everything starts with values. If you fit my ideal customer profile, and I can look at you as a business and say that you kind of tend to vibe with my vibe, right? Then it's a hell of a lot easier for me to reach out to you. Because now we're having a conversation about real stuff as opposed to any technique or anything I might be able to say. I'm asking genuine questions because I'm genuinely curious about your business. And I think I can help based on your scenarios. So with that, the prospecting part of it becomes a lot easier. And we talked about this before we got on here, is like getting to that give a shit factor. Right? Where kids stop just going through the motions and pressing play on cadences and making generic cold calls and treating everybody like a number, and getting to the point where they actually care about the person they actually care about the client that they're working with. That's when results go from mediocre to holy shit, like I'm actually having conversations with people, right? And that's where I think that you need to get to as fast as possible.
That's awesome. And it really does get there. However, it's not a one-shot deal. It's almost in between every call. You have to remind yourself, I'm here to give value. I'm here to give value, because very quickly, I got to get a customer. I got to get a customer. As soon as you have that mentality, I've got to get, your entire value system is skewed at that point. How do you keep people on track?
It's tough, right? Because I think we're in a tough spot right now in a transition phase, because everybody understands that quality is the answer. You hear account-based marketing and all this other stuff, right? But we're still, let's go back to generation. Like when I grew up, it was a numbers game, 50 dials a day, hit the list. And we've evolved. We still do that, but now we're the managers, right? Now the Gen Xers are the managers. And look, what's easy to manage is quantity. What is not easy to manage and coach to is quality. So as much as I fundamentally understand that I need to make sure that there's quality, and it's, quality over quantity and all that other stuff, as a manager, get 10 reps reporting to me, how many dials did you make? That's an easy one for me to measure you on. So we're in this transition where we understand, but we're still not acting the way that we know is the right thing to do. And so I think the challenges for these reps who are being told to make 50 dials, send out 100 cadences and that type of stuff, they know it's wrong, but they have to do it or else they're going to get fired. So I think it's actually a management and a leadership issue that doesn't put these kids in a position to be successful to get to that level of giving a shit, right? Because they just don't have time to give a shit. They want to, but they don't have time to. So I think it's this balance of figuring out what is that true balance of quality and quantity. And you look, it starts with, early on in your career, it's about quantity. I got to see if you can do the numbers, right? But then if you hit those numbers as a manager, if you're hitting the numbers I'm asking you to hit, and you're still not hitting the metrics and the results that we're looking for based on what my equation was, then it's incumbent upon me. Okay, now I understand that you did not do you can do the quantity. Now it's my job to coach you on the quality. Now let's take a step back. I'm going to ratchet down. Instead of making you make $50 a day, let's make 10. Let's do 10 activities a day to some tier 1 accounts, and let's see if the results change, right? And constantly be testing. And I think that's the short answer. I just give it a long answer to your question, but the short answer to your question is having this mentality of constantly testing new approaches and using the team to do it and prove out what works and what doesn't work, as opposed to me just always barking down orders about do this, right? Because if they don't feel part of the process, they're just going to go through the motions.
Do you think maybe, John, that like these managers that you're talking about that may not be, that are just looking at hitting those numbers and that's how they're managing these people? Do you think it's because they were so good at something that was lower than where they didn't manage people, and they just were elevated into a position? Now all of a sudden they've got 10 reps reporting to them, and they skipped the whole how to work with people and how to manage and lead these people. Do you think that's part of the problem?
I think big part of the problem. I mean, and look, I'm coming from the SaaS tech space, so I think a huge part of the problem is VCs and the push to go and make as much fucking stupid money and be as least profitable as you can possibly get. I still don't understand the whole SaaS model of massive unprofitability for 50 years with the hope that it's going to be huge, right? So I still don't get that. But needless to say, I think a lot of it has to do with, Chris, to your point, it's usually the best sales rep. It's actually, I think, a little bit of the opposite. It's not necessarily the manager isn't the one who was able to push the button the most. The manager is the best sales rep, right? Usually what happens is the best of whatever that group is like, oh, now you're promoted because you were the best. Okay, great. But 9 times out of 10, the best sales rep in whatever that position was is not going to be the best manager, because they are the unconsciously competent. They just do what they do and they're really good at it, and they don't have a science. They're the artist, not the scientist, right? And so now they're put in a position to say, okay, now show everybody else how to do what you did. And they look at you like, well, I don't know, what do you mean show this is what I do? And so what do they have? And because they don't get any coaching on how to be a manager, how to be a leader, any of that stuff, what can they rely on? $50 a day. Make sure you do your cadences. Like, that's easy for me to manage and beat you over the head with, but it's really hard for me to show you how I do what I do, because I just do what I do. I'm good. You know what I mean? And I know who to talk to. I know where to spend my time. There are people, I think there's probably 5% of our population in sales that are the natural born sales professionals. The ones who just, and I'm not one of them, by the way. The ones who can literally just ask the right questions, know where to focus their time, like just relate to people without even trying.
Get emotional, they just easily, like nothing. People,
they just get it, right? But the other 95% of us are just trying to figure out how to make this whole thing work, right? Yeah. And so those 5%ers, those are horrible managers. I want, if we look at the phases of competence, right? Like, you start when you're unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know. Then you move to consciously incompetent. You know what you don't know. Then you move to conscious competence. I know what I know. And then unconscious competence. I just do. I would much rather have the consciously competent manager than the unconsciously competent manager.
That's you just
kind
described.
Of like asking Picasso, how did you teach these 10 people how you painted that? Eddie Van Halen, teach these 5 people how you came up with that solo in a Van Halen song.
You just described Chris Stone. That's what you did. He doesn't know how he produces so well. He doesn't know how. But I think what happened is you said tons of valuable stuff there, but you were kind of transposed. It's not the same thing, a manager and a coach. Nope. And I think the managers of yesterday would manage to the numbers and all that stuff and do that stuff. But now that position is gone. The VP of sales does that. The VP of sales can look at the same dashboard that anybody can look at. That manager needs to be a coach. Well, that manager needs to be assisting everybody else in producing better for themselves, helping themselves get better. One of my slogans is you want to become a better salesperson. First be a better person. Manage yourself, manage your calendar, study your calendar, manage your time, be that better person, and then you could serve other people much more. So are you, your company, by the way, and I should bring it back to your company, you have the best staff of all time. I mean, they're all active on social media. They're all, I guess they live up to the same You may have stolen the value system from Salesforce or for your, or given it to them, what have you. But you get the feeling that you're not managing them as much as you are coaching them to achieve greatness in whatever their goals are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually a terrible manager. I'm a good, sorry, my LinkedIn's going crazy here. I'm a good, I think I'm a decent leader. I try to lead by example in a lot of ways. I don't micromanage. You can ask anyone on my team. I don't micromanage anything. Like I like, as far as how many numbers, how many, like if you're hitting your targets, good. Like, what do you need from me? How can I get things out of your way? But, you know, I think the key also is just, again, you know, living your values. You know, I didn't steal those. Salesforce aligns with my values, but I have 12 personal guidelines to success. And I had, early in my career, I had read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in there, it talks about identifying your values and really living them. And I sat down and I wrote down what my 12 personal guidelines to success were. And what I do is every time I hire somebody, I basically show them, hey, look, these are my values. I'm not saying these need to be yours, but I'm just letting you know this is where I'm coming from with my feedback. And if I ever have negative feedback for you, it's usually because you are conflicting with one of my core values. And if your values aren't these, then we need to have a conversation. Because I do believe that if you have core common values, we can get in arguments, we can have skillful discussions, but we'll eventually come to a conclusion that'll work for both of us. But if we don't have the same core values, we're just going to end up yelling at each other and hating each other. So every person that I come on, you know, bring on my team, I pay attention to that first, right? Are they, to your point, to be a better salesperson, you be a better person. Are they a good person? And then do they have the drive and the coachability factors, right? I could care less about skill set. I could care less about, you know, your technical knowledge or your abilities, or I can teach all that shit. I can't teach drive. I can't teach passion, and I can't teach values. Those things you have to have. And if you have those things, shit's going to work out.
Well, along those lines, how do you salespeople, when they're interviewing for jobs, and a lot of people, one of the biggest challenges for companies is hiring good sales people or good people that could align, because salespeople are pretty good at interviews. Yeah, you know, they're pretty good at saying all the right things. Do you have any kind of secret back channel questions to kind of weed out?
Yeah, I mean, I like asking what you're passionate about. And by the way, I could care less what you're passionate about. I care about how you describe what you're passionate about. You know, because if I say, hey, you know, what are you passionate about? And you're like, oh, you know, the New England, you know, I'm sorry. Like, oh, I really like, you know, I really like enjoy working with people, and, you know, and I want to make sure, and you're like blah with your description of it. I'm like, okay, but if you're like, hey, what are you passionate about? You're like, oh, fucking the New England Patriots, like Tom fucking Brady, he was awesome. Now you want to move it. Like, look, I still love him down in Tampa. He's fucking awesome. But, you know, Bill Belichick's got to figure his shit out because this team is little red. Cam Newton, I don't know if Cam Newton, like another year, Cam Newton, I'm going to lose my mind. So I don't care. I don't care if football has nothing to do with what I'm interviewing you. If you're describing it that way, then I know that you're passionate about something. And now my job as a manager is figure out how to get you to be even remotely as passionate about my company and what I do, right? So one is asking about that. Two is it's just a simple interview tactic, which is situational questions. You don't want to ask hypothetical questions. You don't want to ask, you know, leading questions. You ask situational. So instead of me saying, hey, what would you do if you got in an argument with your boss? Like if you, especially a sales rep, if you give a sales rep that type of question, oh, well, you know, I'd sit down with first of all, I'd take a step back and figure out why am I angry at my boss and what disagreement, right? And then I'd kind of figure out what a solution would be, because I'm not a problem guy, I'm a solution guy, right? And then I would approach my manager and I would make sure I would take him out of the office because I wouldn't relate to him, right? And after I give you that answer, you'd be like, holy shit, like this is the perfect hire. Yeah, but I can, because I know what you're trying to get to. But if you said, John, tell me a time when you got in an argument with your manager, how did you approach it and what was the result? It's hard for you to lie about
so
that. So situational based questioning, right? Like, give me an example of a time where you were passionate about something and it didn't work out for you. How did you address it?
Yeah.
Right?
So what you're trying to find out is, again, it goes back to your starting in the business, the tactical approach. That's what makes sense for you. What are you going to do when this happens?
Yep.
And I think that's almost something I learned when I was learning how to drive. I remember my Mr. Yatsakevich. You know Mr. Yatsakevich?
No.
Yeah, he was my the high school driving teacher. So how would you know him?
Who doesn't know Mr. Yatsakevich?
I can't believe you don't know Mr. Yatsakevich. Anyway, Mr. Yatsakevich, he would, as we were driving, this was the game we would always play. What would you do if that car pulls out? What would you do if, you know, the light just changes right now? What would you do if? Where would you go? You know, and so you kind of develop that in life. So when you go into a sales call, or what would you do if the customer says we're already taken care of?
But that's a situation. I can lie on that, and I can convince you that I'm really good at that. What would you do if somebody I'd slam on my brakes and I'd make sure that I stopped and I put it in, you know, and I would pull over because I would be nervous. No, John. The last time somebody cut in front of you, what happened? That's the answer I want, because I'll tell, like, all those what ifs. You'll hire me tomorrow if you give me all those what ifs, because I can tell you exactly what you want to hear. But if you say, John, what happened when? Like when that happened, give me an example of when.
I'm going to write that. Hold on. I got to write that down.
Because I can't, because I have a hard time. People have a hard time lying on the spot about real shit. Hypothetical stuff, I can lie. I can make my sound stuff like the best sales rep you'll ever come across in your life. But John, give me an example of when you missed your number. Why did you miss your number? What did you do about it the next month? And what were the results? And what did you adjust? And what happened? Like I now have to, I have to be a really good liar to come up with something really on the spot like that, or I have to tell you a story, and that story is going to reveal a lot about you.
That's exactly right. You know, I have put 10 names with telephone numbers in front of people. I say, just call these people. Just call them. Here's your script. Just call them. And most of them won't do it. They just won't do it. They'll tell you how good they are, but they just won't do it. And you know, that's my that's my little test.
I do something similar. I actually have them cold call me in a meeting. So I give them I ask them, hey, what did you sell before this? Right. Whatever. Ooh. And okay, cool. Here's the deal. Your job. I'm going to go in the other room. I'm going to sit on, you're going to cold call me. Here's the scenario here. I'm the CEO on this, whatever. And you have to sell me what you're used to selling. So and by the way, I'm not saying sell me on, I'm saying get a meeting with me. Okay. So I'll go in the other room. They'll cold call me and we'll go through the process and I'll come back and I'll give them feedback about what I liked and what I didn't like. And then second stage is, because I'm looking for coachability here, whatever feedback I give them, I then say, okay, now you have to you have to get a meeting before it was Thrive Networks, now it's JB Sales. And here's the general pitch. You don't have to pitch anything. You just have to get a meeting. And now I go back in the room and same scenario, they call. And I don't care if they were horrendous on that first call. If they took my coaching and feedback after that and applied it to the next one, I can tell you're coachable. I can tell you pay attention to shit. And so therefore, to me, coachability is huge. Drive and passion are huge. All the other stuff I can teach.
That, while you were telling that story, half the people watching this have gotten nervous. I mean, just getting to that point of putting yourself into that position tears people up.
Well, then you're not in sales. Then get the fuck out of, get out of sales. Sorry for the language here, but get out of sales, because
family show.
If you are not comfortable with being uncomfortable, if you are not comfortable with making a phone call, then what the hell are you sitting in front of me for? You know, I really, honestly, like, I really do believe that there is a certain point where this isn't the profession for you. If you are scared to death of that scenario, then this is going to be something you're going to have to work on quite a bit.
Yeah, that's great. One of the other questions that I do just to find out about people is I say, what's your morning routine? I don't care what it is, but I want to know that you have a routine. You know, when you wake up, whatever. You know, that's
what's your approach? Break it down for me.
That's right. Which is real. By the way, what time do you get up in the morning?
I get up at 6.
Yeah, you see, all successful people get up 6 or before.
Yeah, now I got an internal alarm clock. Sometimes I'll get up at 5:30, but my internal alarm doesn't even allow me to go past 6 o'clock at this point.
That comes with Generation X. That's what that comes with.
Yeah, sure. I haven't used an alarm clock ever. I can't remember just using an alarm clock because I would just get up because I need to do that. So there's different personalities. And how do you deal with this? Sometimes people think they want a salesperson, but really what they want is like a hunter. You know, are you able to train a hunter? I guess a hunter to be a salesperson, but are you able to train like a salesperson, an account rep, to be a hunter, or is that a different animal altogether?
I I actually think they should be the same. I mean, this whole predictable revenue model that we've gotten into, look, I get it. It's great for growing sales organizations. It's terrible for the customer experience. Nobody likes to be flipped 5 times before they actually talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about. I think we're going back to full cycle sales. And I think those senior sales reps that can't be hunters are going to be dinosaurs, because if you cannot fill your own, let's put it this way. If I was managing a bunch of AEs and an AE came into my office and said the reason they didn't hit their number that quarter was because they didn't get enough meetings from the SDR or the marketing team, I would fire them before those words even came out of their mouth. If you can't be self-sufficient with finding your own business and cultivating those relationships and stuff like that, then I actually don't. So I don't think that sales is just like the relationship of the negotiation and the close. I think that's the easy part, in my opinion. The hunting part is the hardest part. The real hunting part and finding the right type of client to get them into that funnel. I mean, just look at the conversion ratios between every stage of the sales process. The lowest conversion ratio is at that top funnel, right? Yeah. The ones who can figure out how to hunt and kill for themselves are the ones that are going to survive. And I think we're moving back to full cycle sales with account-based marketing and SDRs rolling up under marketing and operations to work with full cycle sales again. But those full cycle sales are still going to be responsible for finding business. And for those ones out there that think it's not their job to prospect and not their job to hunt, like I said, good luck. Good luck.
And my thing is, they need to like that. I mean, they need to like the idea. I'm like a sales army. I think people should need to be a sales army of one. They need to control the whole process for the man. Make your own dang business cards. It costs nothing on Vistaprint. Go ahead and get your own CRM. You're going to wait for someone else to teach you. Get Salesforce if you want. Get Salesflare. Get whatever you do. Make your own little world, and then you become that valuable tool. Then you're marketing yourself. You're selling yourself, and when your job can become just another income source to you becoming whoever you're going to become to. When you are the main employer and they're just using that as an income source, man, your whole mindset changes and everything goes for the better. When you know that you are the tool, the salesperson makes everything happen.
Your CEO, I mean, the CEO of your own territory, right? Like any sales rep who tells me, oh, well, my company doesn't invest in the training of the tools or anything like that, then I'm like, okay, you're not somebody that I really like. I don't think you get it yet. And I'll work with them to try to get it. But like, if you think it's the tool, or if you think it's the training that you know how much free training is out there. I mean, I put 95% of my stuff out there for free. So like you can go get a Harvard education for free if you want to. You just got to put in the effort to do it. Like spend $50 a month on some tool that's going to help you be 10 times more productive, and then go back to your boss. And when they ask you, how are you crushing your number? Well, I dropped $50 a month, and it gave me this tool that allowed me to be more efficient. I'm pretty sure that manager will probably reimburse you for that, and then go invest in it for the entire team themselves. And you'll now be the leader that helps show everybody else how to do it. And all of a sudden you'll be a manager. So
by the way, do you have a tool like that?
I mean, I use a bunch of them.
I'm trying to pitch JB Sales, your online program. Jeez. If we had a real producer, he'd put it up there or something.
I've been putting it up like 100 times.
Okay.
We have a whole on-demand platform that we just launched that has all of our stuff. So James, Say What Sales Buckley, he actually manages that whole side of the house for us, for individuals to go in there and get the exact same training that Salesforce and LinkedIn and all those other companies get. Now reps can get it for $400 a year, right? And to me, like, I look at something, I'm like, for $400, if I get, and say my average contract value is $10,000. Well, if I get one nugget in there that gets me an extra client, I mean, it's well worth the investment, right? Those type of things.
Because you're thinking like an entrepreneur. You're thinking like an Eastern European immigrant who comes to America, who sees the streets paved with gold, with a hell be damned, do what it takes, get a customer, make things happen type of attitude. You're that person, and look at that, make it happen. And you know what that's called? That's an experienced broadcast specialist that can bring that out in the shirt, just like that. Laura Williams says, remember, men, women sell better. Laura, women do everything better. Okay. Well, this is great. So your daughter has a book, and tell us about that, please.
Yeah. So probably about 4 years ago, my daughter came to me. She was 6 years old, and she came to me selling Girl Scout cookies. And, she was like, well, Daddy, you have a really strong social media following. I have a link here where if you share it out there, people can buy from. Like, first of all, she shouldn't know that I have a really strong social media following, but she's like, could you share it out there? I was like, absolutely not. And she's like, well, why not? I'm like, well, first of all, that's my network. I built that. So, and second of all, why are they going to buy from you over any other kid that's trying to sell them Girl Scout cookies? She's like, all right, well, what do I need to do? I said, well, you need to pitch, put together a pitch of like, why should they buy from you? So we did a little video on it. It was kind of cute. I wrote a blog post, right? Second year we did what's that? Oh,
I have the video. I have the video that we can share with the Carbine.
You do? Yeah, it's a cute one. If you want to throw it up,
I'd love to. So here's the video that
this is Charlotte. This is Charlotte practicing her pitch. Oh, this is the second year. This is when we were going door to door, and so she was practicing her objection. We were practicing objection handling on this one. So.
All right, we're getting ready to go out and sell some more Girl Scout cookies. So what have you learned about sales when it comes to selling Girl Scout cookies?
Well, you need a pitch and you have to have a good attitude.
There you go. Do you have to practice?
Yes.
So what do we say when we knock on the door and somebody opens up? What's the intro?
Hi, my name is Charlotte and I'm selling Girl Scout cookies. Would you like to buy any?
Okay, and handle objections, right? You got to plan for those objections.
Mm-hmm.
Let's practice objection handling. Ready? Well, I already bought some from a friend of mine, from my friend's daughter.
Well, you can freeze them for next summer.
Well, that's a good point. But you know what? I'm on a diet right now.
Well, you can donate to the military.
Yeah, I don't have any cash.
We take credit.
I don't have my wallet on me.
We take Venmo.
You take, man, I guess I got no objection. What you sell? Which one of these are your favorites?
Well, I love the lemonades. They're a shortbread cookie with lemon icing on the bottom, and they're really good.
Sounds delicious. All right, so we.
Yeah,
that is good.
So practice that, and then people were asking me. So I wrote a couple of blogs, and then people are always been asking me, John, when are you going to write a book? And I figure I don't read a lot, so I'd figure I'd be a little bit of a hypocrite if I wrote a book, and also like, what the hell am I going to write that hasn't already been written about sales? So I decided though to write a children's book because and the title of the children's book is I Want to Be in Sales When I Grow Up. And the point here is that no kid ever says that, right? Sales is the default profession. It's always we go to school to get whatever degree, and then we get out into the real world and we think either A, I don't want to do this, or B, I can't make enough money. So, hey, sales, I'm pretty good with people. Let me try that out. And we get into it. And it's the self-fulfilling prophecy of why the perception of sales is so negative, because we are the least educated in our profession. And so you give a normal kid that usually doesn't lie, cheat, or steal, you then give them a commission and a territory with limited guidance and say, go. Oh, and by the way, if you don't hit your numbers, you're probably going to get fired and you won't be able to pay your bills. Those kids are going to do some pretty shady things. Those kids are going to do some stuff that is a little bit not out of character, which feeds the perception of sales, right? But if we introduce it to kids at an early age that sales isn't a default profession, that it is one of the greatest professions in the world when done right, and change that, but at a root level, that's what the goal is. So the goal is to elevate the profession of sales. The 2 is to get more women into sales. So whoever that woman was that says women are great in sales, yes, they are. And then the third is that my daughter actually does not want to be in sales when she wants to grow. She grows up, she wants to be a veterinarian. So 100% of the profits go to charity, and we've been able to give $25,000 to the World Wildlife Fund over the profits of the book. So it's been a pretty cool experience.
That is just absolute money. Well, John Barrows, you lived, you surpassed expectations once again. You got new fans here, and everybody needs to get Think and Grow Rich. And you sound so good with that microphone, which is killer.
Thanks, yeah.
Which is very important.
Everybody, up here, if anybody's interested, I got a Word doc because so many people were asking about it. I got a Word doc that actually tells you what devices I can send it over to you if anybody's interested.
Yeah. So before we go, we've got a bunch of comments here and maybe some questions from some folks on Amazon. First of all, Ryan Swanstrom, he wants to know if we can create a game show right now with the two of you in a sales competition. I don't know.
Yeah. I like it.
Any chance that that's going to happen? I mean, in the next
in a minute.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I can come up with something.
Well, here's the sale. If he could hook me up with Kyle Porter, I win. Okay.
There you go. That's an easy one. I can text Kyle right now.
Yeah. Ryan wants to know your thoughts on live sales platforms, selling online like Amazon Live and some others that have creeped up.
So help me understand this a little bit more. Like because I don't know Amazon Live. What is the live sales platform here?
Well,
So
let me tell
right
you,
now
Chris Jourdan is actually a pro with this. Yeah.
Okay. Well, a lot of, whether it's Amazon Live and now, Facebook and, shortly Instagram are taking people who are influencers who become sales reps who get a commission. I mean, Amazon has an associates program and you get a commission based on stuff that you sell. But you can actually go live on their platform and that it basically takes your associates thing and just, puts it on steroids.
So,
you're live in the mall.
I would
selling.
be doing training on Amazon Live, and then people would stream in and learn from me, and then I would have other stuff to sell them and that type of stuff. Yeah, I mean that's what I do, right? So I mean we've shifted our entire model from the on-site full day to live remote stuff. That's how we shifted all of our corporate, and then we do corporate, and then we do individual live sessions where anybody can jump on, like webinar type of stuff. So I think it's just the influencer community. I mean, I think everybody right now needs to be focusing on building their own personal brand. If you are not working on your own personal brand, I think you're missing out, because that's just the direction the world is going. The world is moving. People just don't trust corporate brands anymore. They trust individual brands. And so if you are not working on that, and think about it more as your brand reputation, not necessarily your personal brand, right? What is your reputation? What do you put out there? And how can you do it in an authentic, real way to a community that you can start to cultivate? And using any one of these platforms is a great way to do it. So yeah, I live in this world. So I think it is the future. There's no question about it.
That's good.
Well,
we're run up against the clock. Put some more comments up there, Chris Stone, if there's anybody.
I mean, there's lots of praise right now for what you got to say. And John, you've made a ton of new fans, so expect lots of notifications on LinkedIn, and hopefully sold some books for your daughter, who is, I mean, how sweet.
Not only for your daughter, for the wildlife fund, for all the ponies out there who need it. And you guys, just remember what John is saying here is so important about building your brand. And the fact is, it's free.
Yeah.
There's no excuse anymore not to take advantage of Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, every Amazon Live, all these things that are out there. It's free, and to not take advantage of what's happening right now in the market is a sin against humanity.
Yeah.
It's not even, should I do this anymore? It's one of those must things. You need to have a telephone. You need to do this. You'll improve yourself as you do it. And you don't get great by learning how to be great. You get great by doing and falling on your face and going over and over. And in this world that we're living, the fast pace, remember, you're never all set. That can't be your goal. You're either growing or you're shrinking. You're either climbing or you're sliding. There's no in between. So get all the training you can, get all the free stuff you can. Get this stuff from John Barrows. For $400 a year, you make one sale, you're in the house, and not only will your sales life be better, but you as a person will be better. Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate you. Chris Stone, once again, I mean, world's best producer. Are you kidding me? Every time we do a show like this, John Barrows, he gets more business than me.
Love it.
Guys,
I love it.
You guys are great.
Actually, Dan, real quick, you started with EAT before I even came on, right? EAT, that acronym that you got. So when I came up with my daughter, and I'll leave everybody with this, is we came up with that same saying, but it stands for, it's to help us focus on what we can control: effort, attitude, and how you treat people. So those are the three things you can control. You can't control what the customer does. You can't control what the economy does. You can't control what the politics are, but you can control your effort, how hard you work. You can control your attitude, and whether it's positive or negative, and you can control how you treat people. And those things, if you can do those things, you'll be a happier person. So I thought it was just interesting to wrap it up, because you started with your EAT acronym, and I got the one on the back end here. So
no better way to end.
Money.
You guys are the best. Thanks for watching. I'm the Deej. That's John Barrows, Chris Stone. Go get them today, guys.
all right.